Are we going to do a thing?
And we're live. Good evening. It is the Brushfire Mind time. So, here's what we're talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about the Green New Deal, as you can see. House Resolution 109. This is AOC's new thing. And oh wow, yeah, y'all gonna have to forgive me a little bit because I'm still getting used to using a studio monitor headphone set. I took my hearing aids out. This is a little different on me. So we'll see how that shakes out. Um, Hopefully you've all had a chance to read it by now. Uh, Bear with me just a little bit because we're doing it. We got the new format going on, and I just wanted to pull up and see how it looks on the monitor. And it looks good. I think we got a nice clean play there. And let me get yeah. So we're using the new Skype NDI support with the open broadcast software, and I'm just handling a little bit of quick housekeeping with the boys here. Boys, here is the chat link. If you want to be able to read the chat, and let's dig into this thing. Um, wow. Okay, so the Green New Deal. It's been all over. It's been all over the news all week. It's been absolutely excoriated. The the Green New Deal is not just being criticized for the type of legislation it is, but a lot of the criticism, if you've been paying attention, a lot of the criticism of this Green New Deal thing from uh, Ocasio Cortez is that it's just stupid. I mean, a lot of the criticism is quite simply that it reads like it was written by children. Uh, it, the demands in it read like something that a kindergartner, it's, oh yeah, vote for me for class president, and I'll make sure everybody has free ice cream. Right? It's that kind of crap. Now, the first thing that struck me as alarming, and the whole document is alarming. The madness of it, the stupidity of it is shocking, but the the absolute radical destructive nature of it is terrifying. And I don't know what the hell's going on with
Correct.
Mario in the corner here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine, but for some reason your video feed keeps changing size like on its own. That's
Yeah,
nothing. That's
joys of.
nothing you can do anything about. I just got to try and keep an eye on it and make sure that you don't pop up and cover the document. Okay, but the first thing that's alarming is the audacity of this sentence. Resolution recognizing the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. Based on what? Where? I mean, from what possible place does it come that the government has a duty to create this Green New Deal? Um, that that is not something that's enumerated in the Constitution. Period. There's not even a question. It just doesn't exist. Um, I mean that statement alone is a gross overstretch of the authority of somebody in AOC's position to begin with. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg might find there to be some statutory power for the Congress to remake the entire economy.
Oh, you mean somewhere in the nebulous penumbra of unenumerated rights that includes the just voluntary execution of a child for the sake of convenience?
Yeah, it's like Bremer, in his 1987 footnote that somehow allows for birthright citizenship for illegals. It's Madison planned it. He planned it this way. Okay, like things will be revealed as time passes.
And just
Not funny though, man. It's not even funny anymore. Okay, like you said, I looked at this the Green New Deal, and I wanted to laugh, but a voice a little deeper realized in horror that this is the future of the Democratic Party, and with demographics changing, this is very real. Like this really could happen. All right, it's you have to remember, like these are the people who want to imprison you for calling a tranny a man. All right, like these are people who don't believe that hate speech is free speech. These are people who care more about gun control than care about and than the right of owning firearms not to be infringed. Okay, like they don't care about the Constitution, and once they have enough power, they'll just change the Constitution. It won't mean anything anymore.
correct.
Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good.
One other thing you heard about criticism coming from the left as well. What's the name of the woman? I think it's like Linda Strasser or whatever. She was commenting. She commented on Twitter that if the Republicans wanted to make a perfect parody, like an Onion-style parody of the direction of the modern Democratic Party, they couldn't have done a better job writing this themselves.
Right.
So,
Well, and I mean, just on the first page. Okay, the second page, because the first page is the acknowledgments before the fact checkers get a hold of me. But yeah, let's throw a little fact checking on here. Okay, this idea of mass migration from regions most affected by climate change. Um, really? Because I mean that just doesn't jive with the claims, right? I mean the claims are things like climate change is going to cause Florida to disappear, and that the polar ice caps are shrinking drastically. Uh,
Well, by quite honestly, we were already told that by this point we were going to have all new coastline anyway. So why not just further the bull?
yes. Yeah. Well, hell, according to the Inconvenient Truth, uh, what was the claim that Florida would be underwater? There would be no Florida, and there would be no polar ice caps. Um,
if they really cared, if they really cared about carbon footprints in the industrialized world, then why would they want to import hundreds of millions of people from low carbon emitting countries into the highest carbon emitting countries where they're going to have automobiles and take advantage of modern infrastructure? Like, why do you want to dramatically increase the population in the biggest carbon emitting countries? It makes no sense. It's completely disingenuous.
okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback there, Mario. They don't want to. They're not trying to import millions of foreigners into the highest carbon emitting countries. They're trying to import them to the United States almost exclusively, and to a lesser extent into Western Europe. Um, but as far as the largest carbon producing countries, there is no push whatsoever to increase illegal or legal immigration. Uh, no political push to increase illegal immigration into India and China, or Russia for that matter. Um, and the the United States, the EU combined are not producing as much carbon as India or China. China.
China.
China.
All right, this is getting uncomfortable.
You know about them Chinese and how they pack that box lunch. Um, I know I'm a bad
Wow.
person.
Okay, so what you're pointing at is that the Green New Deal. I think if you look at it in its entirety, you're going to see that majority of it is basically a Marxist dialectic being packaged with a green bow. Like, it's not the environment that is the main consideration here. It's to drive the social change that the left wants to permanently, irreversibly change the country into something it never was founded to be. But anyway, I'm not trying to jump ahead. Just it's going to be that fact would be revealed if you go through some of the main points of the document.
Yes. Okay. So there's another mention here about wildfires. By 2050, we'll annually burn at least twice as much forest. Okay. We've been over this. Devastating wildfires in California and the whole West Coast, the devastating wildfires, are almost exclusively the fault of Smokey the Bear. Wildfires are a thing that occur naturally. And for the last 40 years, the West Coast has actively worked to suppress the occurrence of wildfire. The result has been that the detritus and debris that gets cleared away, typically by wildfire, has not been. And so, when the wildfires last year broke out, there were 40 extra years worth of debris and detritus to fuel that fire. You know, the media guys all made fun of the Donald for saying that rakes could solve the problem. And he's 100% correct. That is an unironically true statement. Really, the best way to solve the problem is to let the fire burn that shit out. Now, obviously,
this argument was stated and proven all the way back to the Bush administration. Like, it is known. It's willful ignorance.
Well, there were stewardship forests and everything else to help keep this under control all through the West Coast up into Oregon and things. And the idea is to get rid of all the undergrowth, space the trees out, have good clearance so if something does catch fire, it doesn't trigger a wildfire. But because it's been made illegal in so many places to cut down the excess trees that it would take to keep the forest healthy and safe, you're right. It has absolutely added useless fuel that makes this stuff rage. You allow the people to get in, clear the underbrush, and open up the woods a little bit, and this cuts down on quite a bit. So, but, it's all the fault because we drive cars is why we have wildfires.
Right. So, okay, and then this, a loss of more than 99% of all coral reefs on Earth.
Coral reef grows when the water level rises, so
it
should be self-correcting if the ice caps melt.
You know what else occurs when, or you know what else it is that causes coral reef growth to increase?
Increased solar activity?
Warmer water. The warmer the water, the more coral reef growth. So, if the Earth is warming, then the coral reef will grow predictably more. And damn, I do not know what's going on. Mario, you're the only one that's doing it. It must just be because you're calling from a phone. But Steve and I are both on PC webcams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a loser.
It's okay. Just call from your laptop next week, dickhead.
Okay. I can do
better. With the system, man.
I can do better. You've shown me that I'm stronger than this.
Oh, we've got 100,000 million, billion, trillion. A risk of damage to $1 trillion of public infrastructure and coastal real estate in the United States. I mean,
Already tried that once. It's not true. We know this.
Okay.
I mean, like, what do you want us to do about it? Like, what are we supposed to do? Tear down all the buildings and rebuild them?
Yes, that is what they want us to do. Styx Hexenhammer points out quite rightly that if in fact the climate alarmists are correct about anthropogenic climate change, then it's too late anyway. We're
Correct.
all doomed now. Um,
Yep. It was I don't remember his name, but there's a Dutch climatologist. He's very famous. He was one of the main contributor to the Paris Accords, right, when that was a big deal a few years ago. And he came out last year with a paper that stated that even if all of the most aggressive of the climate change recommendations were taken by the industrialized world, including India and China being on board to some degree, then it would actually only cause a net change in Earth's temperature 0.3 degrees in the next 20 years. So, in other words, there's nothing you can do about it, okay? Whether it's anthropogenic or whether it's merely simply solar activity or the fact that Earth's magnetic pole is shifting or the fact that the planet naturally goes through climate cycles throughout the entire history of the planet, it's a fallacy, and it's hubris to assume that human beings, literally in the greater sense of things, insects upon the biosphere are really going to do any much of a difference, pro or positive or negative, actually change the outcome. The only thing we can do is just adapt to the changes, just like eons worth of our ancestors did in their environments. Humans have to adapt. That's it. There's not much you can do to change it.
okay, so that was basically page one. Um, Damn, one of my computers just crashed. Oh well, it wasn't doing anything important right then anyway. So okay, we got through page one, and it's just littered with fallacies and bullshit. And now we're into page two. Okay, it's page three, but I won't correct myself on this again. This is the second page of content. Um, Global reductions in greenhouse gas emissions from human sources of 40 to 60% from 2010 levels by 2030, and net zero global emissions by 2050.
Global.
Net
Global.
zero global emissions. Okay, let's go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt for just a moment to talk about that one claim. Um,
Is AOC the emperor of mankind?
She likes to think.
Global. Global.
It just goes to show if you think it, you can do it, right?
Global emissions. Okay, so uh, is there any question after that statement, onto which was signed by, at a minimum, all of these people? Okay, you got all the new guys in here: Talib, Serrano. Uh, there's okay, so at a minimum, you got all these people. And we also know that she's gotten absolute active vocal support from every single current Democrat presidential candidate.
Yeah. Well,
literally without exception.
She did have.
Maybe not Biden.
Um, so I think this alone is pretty clear, is a pretty clear statement that her understanding of the situation is that globalism, as we detest it, is in fact the objective of these people.
Okay.
This has been known for some time.
It is known.
It hasn't even been hidden for quite some time. Remember back when there were so many people against a new world order, and now the people that used to protest it are marching right at it. Such an interesting time we live in. So what was your next?
Got that little note there.
Yeah. What's the next point?
Can either of you read this from where you are?
No.
No.
Okay, so I'm just reading it to you at this point. Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure out a better way to handle that particular piece of the situation. Net zero global emissions. Okay, so now we're into total global takeover. Fuck everybody's sovereignty. No, you don't get to have countries over there. You little people. I mean, when you hear this woman speak, this child, this 30-something bartendrix, I mean, she is dumb as a bucket of cocks. But she clearly thinks of herself as superior, and she clearly regards other people, essentially everyone who hasn't been elected to office, as being pedestrian and plebeian and unintelligent. She thinks she's like Barack Obama. She's just so smart that the rest of us can't understand how smart she is, because she's just so far above him. But Jesus, I mean, you said it, Mario. Hubris. The hubris of these people, and especially this fucking child, is alarming.
The most dangerous type of people are immature people with no self-awareness who have access to power. That is the most dangerous form of person.
And we've got half a nation begging for it.
Correct. And more in the future.
Yeah. Sadly.
We thought the Overton window was shifting in our direction, but something happened in 2017. The mainstream media and the big tech companies, through their doxing, shutting down, deplatforming, it actually worked. They managed to silence us, and they went into an agreement with the legacy media, the new media, basically to ensure each other's survival, to become one. They took back control of the internet. That's what happened, and that's why we're losing again.
I'd say that's right up to a point. It's kind of like with the mainstream media. They took the highest points, the most visible points of it back, most certainly. I wouldn't say the whole thing. We all know there are large pockets of alternative and right wing stuff and several other options out there, but it's really hard to gain traction when everyone in control of it tends to be on that side of it.
I agree. But anyway, that's off topic.
Okay, so now we get into the real socialism stuff. And it's amusing to me that when they start talking about wage disparities, they're hashing up largely debunked, I would say completely debunked, just horseshit here. The income inequality since the 20s. It says the top 1% of earners accruing 91% of gains in the first few years of economic recovery after the Great Recession. Okay, for starters, the 1% of earners is a moving target. Most people that float into the top 1%, which is somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 per annum, for a household uh, tend to float in and out of that top 1%. They'll float there for a couple of years and then they'll back off. Um, a couple, 5, 10 years. So that top 1% thing, that's not some bizarre conglomeration of multimillionaires. And they pay more than 80% of all the taxes already. The idea that they have accrued 91% of, and it doesn't say of wealth, it says of gains in the first few years of economic recovery after the Great Recession. That language is tricky. Um, are you saying that the top 1% of income earners are the ones that had investments which in fact earned gains? I think we just lost Mario.
No, you didn't. I'll be right back.
Okay,
Copy that.
Wife texted me.
I see. um, but anyway, that language, the gains of the top 1%, that's the word gains and the word wealth and the words revenue. Those are very different things. So here, and this is one of the problems with people who are this stupid, is I don't know if she doesn't understand what she's trying to explain, or if she's explaining something that she didn't mean to explain. Right? I don't know if she's confused about the meaning of the word gains, or if she's confused about how gains work. It's probably both. But then the next point.
I need to interject for one moment. There is some truth to what AOC or her writer is saying, basically about wealth inequality, income disparity. All right, it is actually worse in this country now than it has been since I've read recently the 1920s. Right, but the problem is that the reason for it is the direct result of liberal, left-wing Democrat policies. Okay, so you've had wage stagnation essentially in this country since the 1970s, basically starting about 5 years after the Hart-Celler 1965 Immigration Act. You've increased the population of the United States by 100 million since then. All right, thereby increasing the labor pool and depressing the general value of labor. Okay, by pumping more people into the country, you are actually increasing income inequality because you are cheapening the value of people's labor. So, secondly, you've had increases in taxes, new forms of taxation. So, those at the highest level of wealth in this country are able to basically reinvest their money, whereas you have working class and middle class people in this country who are disappearing, who are paid their bills and do not have remaining funds left over to actually reinvest their money. They are living paycheck to paycheck, okay? I mean, that's the majority of the country. So there is truth to her statement, but the cause is people like her.
That's fair.
Yeah, I was about to make the same claim about the whole women's labor movement. Um, and that's a whole long thing. I, it's not that I don't think that women should be allowed in the workforce, but the fact of the matter is that the way feminism treats it, uh, it's they treat it like it's morally wrong for a woman to not enter the workforce rather than be a mother, rather than choose to do the housewife homemaker thing. Um,
Well, the flip side of that is, too, and an easy way to shoot it in the foot. If it honestly was that much cheaper to employ women over men, why do we have fewer women in the high paying roles? It would make financial sense for greedy companies to hire the cheapest people they could. In that way, hiring all women should be cheaper than hiring all men, yet they don't do that. So,
well, just like apartheid Africa, there were certain jobs. most jobs where you were not allowed by law, not allowed to hire blacks because of the whole apartheid scheme. And so what was happening is people were hiring the blacks under the table illegally, and the net result was that all labor wages were depressed by the artificial competitiveness because people were breaking the law to take advantage of it.
Which opens them up to being mistreated and grossly underpaid that they can't fight because they're not supposed to be doing it in the first place. Very much how the low wage earners are in this country now for the same exact reason. There is no recourse if they're paid.
The mass employment of women was a design by the elite of this country, that is our tax farmers, to double the GDP. That's what it was, plain and simple. Double the size of the economy.
No, it was not designed to double the size of the economy. It was designed to double the size of the tax base.
That's what I mean. The tax farmers.
They're clear. Either they are mortally incompetent at predicting and managing the size of the GDP, or they're not concerned with it. And the evidence, in my opinion, suggests that the latter is the case. As long as there's a large enough tax base to just keep soaking them in the bucket.
Well, and that's another point. Staying on topic, you talk about the tax base and the idea, the things in AOC's little plan here, and how much her programs were going to cost, and we're going to raise the top marginal percentage to 70%, I think it was in the paper, which is estimated to generate somewhere around $700 billion once it were to take effect, which at the current rate of spending would fund the government for about 8 months at current rates, let alone all the programs she wants to add. That money doesn't even take us anywhere toward gaining on debt.
The price of AOC's...
The cost estimates on this plan are already the GDP above current outlay.
Let me help you. The cost of this plan is infinite money. Infinite money.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about the cost. I was just talking about the level of taxation she wants, that she thinks is going to pay for that infinite amount of spending she needs.
No, the levels of taxation required. You could 100%. You could tax the country 100%, and you will still not achieve these goals.
Nope, not even close.
You could pull an FDR and confiscate all the gold, privately owned gold. It's not going to pay for this.
Nope.
Nothing could pay for this. You would have to have a Star Trek universe type society where the concept of money doesn't exist anymore, and it's simply imaginary future forms of credit. And basically, that's actually what they want. I mean,
we're not all that far from it at this point, really.
Gold press platinum.
Another side of this being one thing we didn't touch on as far as this net zero emissions and all these things she wants to do, that she's got that typical fixation on this grand idea of high-speed rail a la Europe, that evidently she's never seen how expensive it is to build railroads, because Lord knows she's never been anywhere near a state where there's $100 billion high-speed rail project that is so grossly over budget and never getting completed that it shows a prime example of what an interstate train line built today would do.
Oh yeah, I mean part of the FAQ on this thing said that they're going to get rid of air traffic. They're just going to get rid of airplanes altogether.
Yeah. It's a great idea. Let Hawaii die off their tourism failure, right?
That's what Massey Hirono was one of the first people Senate Democrats to criticize. Like,
say what?
Well, that would be a challenge for Hawaii.
Yes.
Okay, so
you know how much it takes to build a floating track that long?
Okay, so let me break something down for you real quick.
Going back.
The more expensive the much more expensive international flights that occur are essentially subsidized by the rest of the air traffic that goes between um, the states, between the individual state airports. Um, so, I mean, not subsidized, but quite simply, just like any other product or service, you have there are two ways to make money. There are only two ways to make money: distributorships or markup, distribution or markup. That's it. You make money either by moving massive quantity or by raising prices. Right? You have cost of X. If you can make something cheaply and sell it at a high price, you earn profit. If you can make something cheaply and sell it at a low markup, but a crap load of it, right? Look at Dollar General. It's I forget. It's either Dollar General or Family Dollar, one or the other. I think it's Dollar General. Um, obviously, their plan has to be on the number of distributorships and sheer volume of product moved, because it's clearly not in the markup. They they're successful because they have the largest number of individual distributors, as in actual storefronts, of any other company in the world. Uh, my numbers may be a little behind on that. I haven't read up on that in probably 2 or 3 years, but 2 or 3 years ago, Dollar General was the single largest number of distributorships on the planet. And as I'm sure you've noticed if you've ever been in one, they're not exactly overstaffed.
That's a good.
Minimized overhead, maximum distribution, minimum markup, do it on volume. Well, similarly, so if suddenly 50% of the Dollar Generals burned down, I guarantee you they'd have to change their name to the $2 General.
Yeah, you'd have to make up one way or the other. If you lose one end, you have to raise the other.
Right. So that's what I mean when I say that the international flights out of the United States to other countries are it's not exactly subsidization, but they're able to operate at the cost that they do only because of the volume of other flights that are occurring. So if we were to suddenly
Yes.
replace all interstate travel, all domestic flights, replace them all with trains, that's the end of the airline industry.
Unless the airlines are the ones who build the railroads.
Correct.
With Zeppelins. With
This
Zeppelins.
happens. It's not a blimp, it's a Zeppelin. Get out and look.
Bring it back,
But no,
canvas sailed
actually,
vessels.
Steve,
Okay?
you've got a great
Clippers,
point there.
cutters, carbon neutral.
Steve, you've got a great point there. If the airlines went into the train business, uh, they'd have to run a crap load more trains.
Yeah, yeah. Can you picture that track network?
Because I might pay $2,500, $2,000, $3,000 to fly me and my wife and kids from Georgia to Washington State in most of a day. I don't know if I'm gonna pinch off $3,500 to
To
get on
spend
a
3 days on a
freaking
train.
train for 3 or 4 days,
Right.
unless I'm getting like a luxury cabin that's catered. I mean,
Not even then, because then you don't have any vacation left. You
right.
use 8 days of vacation to get there and back, let alone any time to visit.
Well, and for that price, I could drive.
Yeah, and it would make more sense.
Um, Now, I mean, high speed rail, if a couple hundred miles an hour, okay. But still, if the rail is that efficient, how are we making money? However, make enough money to make up the difference in volume on air traffic. That's
Well, now your international flights are $5,000 a piece for the cheap seats
yeah.
because now those have to take over the core. No matter how you look at it, they have to return on investment, and they have to have the prices that high. So yeah, your price per flight has to go up, right? One or the other.
We're building trains across the ocean, Steve. Okay, stop.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that because the 80% marginal tax rate is going to pay for that next.
You need to expand your vision. All right. Next topic point. This is obvious. Yes.
I just can't see the big picture.
It basically takes a major section of the U.S. economy, which is transportation, which is basically market sound, and basically makes it completely market unsound. The only like kind of side angle to this I can see is that for these ideas to actually even heavily subsidized by the government to have any semblance of profitability, it would require existing companies to be merged into larger mega companies. You know what I mean? Which is what the Democrat corporatist party likes anyway.
There you go.
Basically, Hillary Clinton's presidency takes America towards the step of like it's Shadowrun. The end result is Shadowrun. Okay, it's straight cyberpunk, Blade Runner, dystopian future. Anyway, I'm off on some. I'm on my crackpot. Let's move on.
Another one of the bullet points was the changing of cars all over to something basically banning the internal combustion engine.
Yes.
Which of course is going to go wonderfully, because if we just get rid of all the cheapest fuel that we know, coal and fossil, all fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, all of these things, the world will just be so much better, and we can just in 10 years stop with cars 100%. How many people do you know that over the last 10 years have just been able to afford a 20-year-old car? How are they all going to buy new electric vehicles?
Government subsidy.
Of course.
There we go again. Now we're up to a 90% marginal tax rate because money grows on trees.
And I think we're getting at the crux of the argument here. It's Marxism, people. It's Marxism.
It's environmentalism. A unicorn fart pipe dream is what it is.
I read this earlier. I wanted to get to the unwilling to work piece.
Yeah, that's where I was scanning down to next. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another one on there. Don't forget, there was kind of that guaranteed income. Yeah, that's where we were headed. Yeah.
Yeah. Universal basic income.
Yep. For economic security for all who are unable or unwilling to work.
Guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security to all people of the United States. Okay, that doesn't include the language about unwilling to work. That's a little later on, I think.
It's been edited since it was originally released.
Correct. It was.
Yeah, I'm actually not entirely clear on that. One claim that I've seen is that the point about unwilling to work was in an FAQ, but it seems pretty clear. Like AOC has said that was not in the FAQ on her official site. That was some fake news that some right-wing organization put out. The fact is,
why was it taken completely off of her site immediately after it broke then?
That's what I was about to say. The fact of the matter is, that was actually on the FAQ on her site. Whether or not it's in this version of the bill, it was in the FAQ. It was put out by her organization. And that site has been archived. You can pull that up.
Yep.
So that is very much something that they have discussed. But this idea here, guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage, okay, who decides what a family-sustaining wage is? Adequate family and medical leave. What the hell does that mean? Paid vacations and retirement security to all people of the United States. Okay, at what point? So I turned 27 and come off mommy and daddy's health insurance, and now I'm guaranteed that I'm going to start a job that pays $75,000 a year with medical and dental and paid vacation. And who's going to flip the burgers?
Who's going to clean the toilets?
Who's going to sell me my $37 a gallon milk?
Yeah, that's obviously math cannot reason.
There's only one way you could do this. Total communism.
You can't even do it then, because where are the resources coming from? This is all just being invented. Communism can't even make that happen.
Okay,
Look,
see,
if everybody's in abject poverty, we've achieved equality. All right.
That's a point. We are all.
It's the only way we can do this.
So we're talking about people who understand economics in terms that there is wealth, and all of that wealth makes up a single pie. There is only one pie. The amount of pie never changes, and you can divide it infinitely like Jesus' fish.
Is there even a school of economics that still preaches that, or are these people just choosing to still believe it despite all evidence to the contrary?
There has never been a school of economics that actually preached that.
There you go.
Even actual pantsless, drunken, child-murdering Karl Marx. Because make no mistake, the Marx household was a Holodomor, where 3 of his children starved to death because he believed the way he believed. He believed the way that one must believe to write the literature that gave us this.
Yeah.
But even he understood in his writing that work creates wealth. He didn't understand it correctly.
Right.
But he understood that to be a fact of the matter.
Yeah.
These people do not understand that.
The ideas expressed here in the passages that you just read, all right? It isn't possible, and they know that. That's not what it's about. The point is simply class envy. You say things like this, and you can lock up 37% of the vote right away, because the people they're selling it to are completely ignorant, and they're the ones who would be on the receiving end of whatever is being offered for free at the expense of someone else. All right. It doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to be real. All right. It's feelings. It's pure. It's just a Hegelian dialectic. Okay, where the worldview is simply that there is one group that is oppressed, and there is one group that is the oppressor, and that it is a struggle between the two, and that is basically the single linear line of history. All right, that's what they believe. It doesn't. There's no truth. There's no value behind it. It's just get the mob.
Yep.
Get my mobs to vote for me. That's all it is.
It wasn't all that long ago. I believe it was another one of the beautiful sound bites that AOC seems to drop on us every now and then. Was it hers or was it somebody else that had the line about that sometimes feelings had to rule over facts?
Yeah.
I can't remember if that was
that was her.
Yeah.
She said it doesn't matter if you're factually correct so long as you're morally right.
That was the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite my feelings don't care about your facts, but damn close.
It's subjective is greater than objective. That's what she means. So,
So, yeah, like you said, that's the kind of school of thought that gets us this.
So believe it or not, we've actually kind of summary jumped through the whole thing, and we are on the last page now.
more.
More or less. Obviously, we haven't hit every sentence in great detail, but we've hit the highlights. And I just want to talk about this last little bit real quick. We've got about 5 more minutes on air. Ensuring a commercial environment where every business person is free from unfair competition.
Beg pardon?
What? What? I'm sorry. It says that.
That is, I'm reading that directly off the page.
Read that again.
Oh yeah, here we go. Ensuring a commercial environment where every business person is free from unfair competition and domination by domestic or international monopolies.
Yeah, that wasn't even in my breakdown of it. Wow.
You gotta kill people to do that.
And she's an economics degree holder.
You have to commit mass murder.
Wow.
No.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm kind of speechless. Where the hell did that come from?
Oh, that's easy. It came from Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah, but not in the way people usually draw things from Atlas Shrugged.
This Green New Deal is essentially the dog eat dog policy from Atlas Shrugged.
Yeah. Yep. Choose the winners and losers, dole it out as you see fit, and hold it hostage to control the people. Absolutely.
Your business model is greater than mine.
Fair share law.
Therefore, you die.
The fair share law. Good God.
Okay, like, I mean, I think maybe I might. I'm trying to understand. I think I understand maybe where she's going with this. It's just like you commented at the beginning of this program. It's written by a child. You know what I mean? So, sure, unfair predatory capitalism. Yes, that is a thing. Okay, monopolies, international monopolies. Yes, that is a thing. Okay, and that's why I believe that corporations need to be regulated. Okay, I don't believe in a total libertarian free market. All right, but the way that this is written in such a childish fashion, it basically means that the government would come and seize all the assets of Dollar Tree because Dollar General was upset. It's fucking.
Yeah, that's essentially what it means. Yeah, they're making money. I was supposed to make that money. Stop them.
My prices were the same, and I didn't make the same volume. Shut them down.
Yeah, that's essentially it. That's the only way that can happen, really.
I mean, if this is about foreign countries, offloading at below market value various assets and resources, things like that. Yeah, I'm all for taking measures against it. It's called a tariff, but anyway. Mind blown. GIF.
Yeah.
I thought you might get a chuckle out of that one.
Yep. Didn't even realize that bit was in there. It's just
I missed that one.
Unfathomable.
Yeah. Yep. The next sentence is, and providing all people of the United States with high quality health care, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, and clean water, clean air, healthy and affordable food, and access to nature.
Access to nature?
Access to nature.
Well, then
what does that mean?
She's gonna need to. We need to go to zero immigration immediately to even get a start on any of these goals. The more unskilled people you allow in the country, the more expensive you're going to make all these, this utopia. We need our population to naturally start decreasing to get anywhere close to this. That's what's so deeply disingenuous about this, coming from the far left wing of the Democratic Party, is the policies the things that they want to achieve temporary political power work in the exact opposite of the utopian goals that they have.
That's right.
They want power. That's it.
It's actually a little worse than that. Our current labor force and the amount of labor and production at present levels is not sufficient to sustain this. So in order to create and sustain the world that is envisioned by this document, there has to be a situation where we simultaneously significantly increase, probably double or triple, the labor force while simultaneously reducing the population.
Yeah. Yeah, that's no lie.
This bill doesn't require it. This bill doesn't necessarily require that we execute millions of people. What it requires is a slave state.
Correct. I was going to say that. You have to change the definition of person.
Oh no! Here we've come full circle for the Democrat Party again.
We can change what it means to be a person, so that the people receive all the benefits, and the unpeople, well, they're the ones that we don't have to be concerned about. This bill was never intended for unpersons. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm not.
Oh, I'm not scared.
I have young children. I'm scared.
And a rifle.
As do I, but.
As do I. See, we're already gaining numbers.
Actually, yeah, we've got 2 subscribers this week.
Awesome! Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mike. And they're watching right now.
Oh, excellent.
Well, somebody is anyway.
Yeah. Glad you're here.
But that's the show for tonight. It's 9:00. It's time to call it an evening. I'd like to get into what she means by access to nature, or the idea of affordable, safe, and adequate housing for everybody.
Or the idea that how we're going to eliminate cow farts to cut down on methane. Well, there's only one way to cut down on that, and you have to cut down on cows. So I guess we're all supposed to be vegan, too.
Charcoal inserts.
Oh, there's a job description.
Wasn't that funny? It wasn't that good, man.
Oh yeah, it was. Oh yeah, it was. I just got this full-blown mental image of you running through a pasture with a bag full of these charcoal dildos in the hamburger costume.
In a ham? Did you say in a hamburglar costume?
I did.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, that is funny.
Yes, that's we probably better go now. To get better, I can tell.
Okay. We're done. Good night, gentlemen. Until next week. If you build a man a fire, you keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, you'll cure him of farting methane into the atmosphere. Good night.
You'll increase his carbon footprint, though.